Welcome to the gathering at the Cosmic Fire Summit 2025. Heart to heart, hand to hand, soul to soul, answering the global call to be of service. We are all beings of light, finding our way in the world, seeking support, connection, and seeds of inspiration along the way. Over the next 5 days, honored healers, teachers, and thought leaders from the world of shamanism and earth-based traditions will uplift, inspire, and guide us to step more fully into our true purpose and our own unique path in answering the call to sacred service. Each one of us is a carrier of wisdom and medicine and the potential for change and healing in our world. Together, in unity and service, we can illuminate the way forward for our human family today and for all of our relations in the generations to come. This gathering is brought to you by Shaman's Directory, a vibrant and growing nonprofit global platform dedicated to bringing shamanic earth-based services to the world's doorstep. Together we are powerful medicine. I am Mayumi Beckers, one of your hosts at the Cosmic Fire, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome Daniela Riojas. Welcome, Daniela. It's really wonderful to have you here.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Daniela. So before we begin, for those of you who do not know Daniela and her amazing work, I'm going to take a little moment here to let you know about her. So Daniela Rioja is a curandera, educator, medicine keeper, musician, and artist, originally from the frontera of Texas in Mexico, currently based in Tulum, Mexico, traveling internationally. Her indigenous ancestry is connected to the Coahuiltecans of northern Mexico. As a curandera, she communes with Mother Nature and a lexicon of plants, animals, and energies through ancestral practices of channeling and meditation. She has undergone extensive trainings and master plan dietas with indigenous elders who have initiated her into the sacred practice of facilitation and healing in ceremonial space. Daniela Riojas is the founder of Inticana Medicina, which provides ceremonial healing rooted in indigenous and earth-based practices. The mission at Inticana is to provide gateways of health and well-being through indigenous knowledge, plants, animals, music, frequencies, education, and connection to all of the medicine that this beautiful Mother Earth provides. Inticana Medicina specializes in providing containers of integrity and safety for comprehensive ceremonial healing. And the topic for our conversation today is channeling earth wisdom through song. So again, welcome, Daniela. We're really, truly honored to have you here today and to hear more about your story and your medicine and wisdom and to share this with our summit audience. And I know a little bit about your work as I experienced one of your latest ceremonies firsthand in the jungle. And I know you're an extraordinary medicine woman and a beautiful musician and singer as well. And so I would like to begin if you could share something about the main path of study you have walked with your teachers and elders.
So the main premise of the study that I've been in with my teachers for the last 7 or 8 years, specifically in the Amazon jungles of Peru, have been centered around the diets and working very closely, very deeply with many different plants, medicinal plants, trees, flowers, and also the guardians and the spirits that are within the cosmology of the Peruvian Amazon tradition. Where I study is it's an interesting meeting point of different kinds of lineages. So there's the Kokama mestizo lineage, which I spent a lot of time with and is much more closely related to the Icaro style that I have been studying more deeply. But I've also received many diets and have been studying with an Ashaninka maestro. His name is Charini. And so there's influence of his Icaro style as well as some of the language. And then there's the Shipibo tradition there as well. So even though I don't sing in the Shipibo tradition or fully in the Ashaninka, those impressions have been around me for many years. But the direct study that I've been in has been with the plants themselves directly. And I feel very grateful for my teachers because what they've done is really create a very sort of open and safe space for me to undergo these diets, these initiations where we go into a very strict diet. There's so much that we're sacrificing within these dieta initiations, drinking the plants and the trees and going through a lot of cleansing, a lot of connection, a lot of purification. And they've been able to create that space for me to be in direct connection with the plants and the trees and all those spirits there, all of nature, which we're sitting in and meditating in for hours and hours and days at times. And then from there, then the Icaros have come, and the wisdom of the plants directly from them have come to me in dreams and just within my consciousness, just opening up to receive more and more information. And that in itself has also informed my facilitation, how I work with medicine, how I work with these plants, and am in sort of constant communication with them about how they want to do their work as doctors and to be called into the ceremonial space for protection and to do their doctoring work on the participants that come in to receive.
Beautiful. I'm also curious to hear, like, what inspired you to walk this path and guided by your teachers along the way? Like, what decided you to, yeah, continue all this plant medicine work?
Well, it really wasn't something that I was seeking, actually. And I feel like that's a very important, like note for me in the trajectory of my journey. I've been an artist my whole life, and throughout my 20s, was already integrating ceremony, indigenous activism, the reclamation of my indigenous lineage into different forms of art, whether that was visual art through photography, performance, music, songwriting, and communing with nature too. So I was already doing all these things on my own intuitively, and then starting to go into sweat lodge and different ceremonial spaces, sitting with medicine in different capacities and weaving that into a connection really that I was opening up more and more in order for me to create in communion with something that I already felt very intuitively connected to, which is nature. And so when I started to, I think a really big breaking point for me, or something that was sort of a catalyst, was the passing of my mother when I was 27. And at that time, I had already been on my healing path, but there was just so much more that came to the surface that I realized that I needed to address in a deeper way. And that's when I started to go deeper into my personal healing and going into Peru and receiving the medicine from those lands, and just very focused, very dedicated in excavating these deep ancestral wounds that I felt I was carrying, a lot of physical issues that were coming up for me that, because my mother passed away from breast cancer, I was starting to realize that if I didn't address these physical things, then I might be going down the same path as her. So it really came from that urgency, of like, okay, I really need to take my healing path a lot more seriously. And through that, I was also put into a position of guardianship and being of service in the ceremony space, and also tending to and supporting the passengers and the pasajeros, the people that were coming to the retreats. I was supporting them in their process because I had already been working with medicine for some years. And so all of a sudden I was in a leadership position and also undergoing my own healing processes. So really starting to understand what it was to straddle all of, both worlds, somebody who was in my own process personally, but then also in support of those that were maybe just barely starting to open up their healing path. Um, and I honestly I was having a lot of really hard ceremonies, and I started to ask more questions. I was really interested in diets for a long time, but I was there in Peru, and I felt like I had the resources. They were talking about diets all the time, and I wanted to really feel into something if that was something that I wanted to do there in that center that I was working in near Pucallpa. And then I just made the decision finally and went into my first two dietas. And I was able to undergo so much deep personal healing that I felt needed to be addressed in the diets. There was just a particular way that I was able to be present and be in direct communion with these plants and trees. And the transformation was very rapid from there, and these ancestral wounds that I had been going into ceremony, with the intention of healing, they were finally unlocked in a lot of ways. And with that was so much wisdom that came with it. Like things just started to make a lot of sense about the karmic contracts that I was in and why it was also all a beautiful blessing in my life, and that there was something in my path that was opening up about how to be of deeper service to the world through the healing of these wounds that I was undergoing. And I think just with showing up, being of service, being of, feeling the impact that the medicine was having on my life and how beautiful I was able to beautifully be in deeper connection with myself. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was like, wow, I'm connecting to myself in a much deeper way and connecting to all of life. And this is something that I believe in. So I was really just showing up in service and guardianship and of service to those who were undergoing their processes as well. And I think it all just happened very naturally. My teachers were seeing that I was walking my path in a very good way and with, just very neutral intentions. And I've been a singer before, but my voice changed so dramatically with the diets and with working with medicine in a deeper way. And I started to realize that I was becoming a channel for the medicine in a capacity that I really didn't, seek out, but it was just happening very naturally. So with that, my teachers, I think, kind of took me under their wing and said, okay, something's happening here for you, so let's give you some good teachings, and really take you through proper initiations. And if your path is opening up in this way, we want to make sure that you're receiving the proper guidance around it. And yeah, I was quite nervous about it. I was like, no, I don't think I want this, but it, like I said, it all just happened very naturally, and really grateful that it happened while I was literally surrounded by my teachers, and I've been working with the same teachers throughout the entire time as I've deepened my studies and continued with my dietas.
Beautiful. It's really, really wonderful to hear your story. And it sounds also very natural that things were really woven together in a seamless way for you on your path. Of course, some maybe hard dietas and work also. And I would love to talk a little bit more about the dietas because not everybody may know about what it is. Could you perhaps expand on the process of dietas, what they involve, and also this dialogue, how they create this dialogue with plants, and how this practice of doing your dieta supports, yeah, your own healing and transformation?
Yeah, so the way that I've really situated dietas within my experience and also in the way that I've become a guide for so many others in their dieta process, is that we are undergoing a very intense, deep, and profound cleansing process, which includes eliminating a lot of foods, spices, sugars, oils, most of the diet that we're, entrenched in the American way, and really just simplifying everything down to its basic form within our body. And when we eliminate all of these foods and spices, sugars, everything, it allows for our body to be able to be a very clean and open vessel for then when we drink the plant or tree or whatever it is that we're dieting with, then there's a direct connection that's created there. I've also thought of it now more than anything as a space of sacrifice, like when we're eliminating these foods and things that we're attached to, like caffeine, also other different medicines, and there's many different ways to diet, but in the way that I have learned is that we just eliminate everything. Usually in a strict diet, the only foods that we're eating are rice, potatoes, plantain, and eggs, and that's it. There's also different forms of diets which can have other foods included in them, which are softer diets, but I've been more closely within the stricter diet tradition. So when we are eliminating all these other things, fruits, sugars, like I said, caffeine, other medicines like hape or cacao, or other things that, of course, in our daily life are supporting us in many ways, but also we can become very attached to them. And so when we're going into the dieta, we're starting to eliminate all of that, and that's an opportunity for us to also assess the depth of our attachment to these things. And so with that then is that opportunity to find discipline and steadiness about, sticking true to the dieta, and then to work and bring awareness into where those attachments are pulling at us, whether it's I'm used to my coffee and I don't know how to function without my coffee, or alcohol, or whatever it is that we're eliminating. And from that, then we're starting to enter into a very sacred space where we need to stay focused and very disciplined about what our intention is and what the prayer is that we're bringing into this field of the dieta. And so as you experience, there's preparation that happens beforehand. So there's a pre-dieta, and we're starting to eliminate foods and all these other things along the way into when we actually are there and we open the dieta. It's usually after sitting in ceremony, and that's usually guided by the maestros, maestras, curanderos, curanderas, who have the knowledge of what each plant is doing and who is meant to receive which plant. So after there's an assignment of the plant, then the dietas are administered and opened. And so when we say the diet is opened, I always think of it as like a seed is planted, and it's in the subtle realms that all of this work is happening. I also think of it as sort of like a pin portal is created, and that portal and that field is going to continue to grow for as long as the dieta is going to stay open. So there's also differing times of durations, of the dieta. So whether it's 8 days or it's 15 days or 20 days or a month or 2 months or 3 months. So depending on how long that dieta is open and in motion, then it will also determine the strength and the sort of like the bigness of that portal and the strength of it. So there's a lot of different parameters around that, which kind of dieta, what strength is it, what plant, all these things. And so there's a healthy amount of knowledge that is required from the curanderos, curanderas, who have undergone their deep study of plant diets and have drank those plants and drank those trees and really know the ins and outs of how they work in the body, but then also psychically and emotionally and spiritually, all these other components that each spirit, each plant, tree works. And within then, as soon as the diet is open, then, you know, the process starts to unfold. And like I said, it's working in the subtle realms, but it's very, very, very potent. It's very powerful. And I think the most powerful aspect about it is the ceremony is happening every single second. And what we call the tests are being presented every single second. And the tests are important because the tests are kind of, those are the gateways of initiation that are being presented to the person that's dieting. So whether that's looping thoughts, or you feeling triggered about something that's happening, or a lot of fear that's coming up about the environment, or certain animals that are showing up, certain dreams that are persisting throughout the night, your nights there. And yeah, like there's so much that is being presented as these tests of what are you going to do here? You know, how are you going to take this opportunity to extract some wisdom and medicine from this experience? So I feel like if people aren't properly guided through a dieta, they could easily miss the tests and just be bothered by things that are coming up, you know, bothered by their experience. Oh, it's very hot here. Oh, I'm bored. This person's triggering me. I don't even know why I'm here. You know, all these things, the ways that our attachments are really coming up to the surface, and also our programming, you know, the ways that we've been functioning in our life, all of that is interacting with the plant spirit, which is really challenging us and saying, are you going to come into a deeper awareness of how all of these programmings and these attachments are coming up? And can you be present with them enough to understand them better and to choose to do something differently? And also to allow the plant to purify everything that's coming up. So much of the guidance that I've received from my teachers, for instance, is the meditation practice, is that we empty our mind whenever we're in dieta. We're not worried about this and worried about that, and bringing all our preoccupations. It creates a distortion in the field of the plant that's wanting to work and to purify. And then the more that we just keep attaching to all the things that we think are more important, then the plant is going to have a lot more resistance in working through you and through the person. And so there's so much of the ego that needs to be let go, and there's so much of a purity of the heart that we need to cultivate, and coming in with very clear, neutral intentions about what we're there to pray for, what we want for ourselves, really, but that we're not seeking and grabbing and saying, I want to do this diet because I want to, you know, finally be able to sing so I can be a popular artist one day. You know, it's like coming in with those distortions and those manifestations of the ego. There are often times where the plant will sort of clash, but then also then the presentation of the test become that much stronger. So it's a very interesting sort of like expansion of our consciousness and awareness of ourselves in order for us to really open into a state of neutrality, a state of deep meditation, to let go of our wants and what we're seeking, our attachments, let all of that go, and to simply be present, and to just come with a pure heart. And from that place, then we can actually listen to the wisdom and the ways that nature wants to communicate with us. And suddenly the things that we're attached to and what we think we're going to get out of the dieta, that starts to fade away because that greater wisdom starts to come through, and the answers come, but not because we're seeking and we're trying to solve all the problems and It's more that we're actually pure, we're letting go of all of that, and we're actually coming to a very pure state of listening and receiving, which is then when the channel can open, and that's where the Icaros come, you know, and the plants really love a pure vessel to work through, not somebody that's coming with ego or seeking too much, but somebody that's coming with a purity of heart. The consciousness of the plants and nature and the birds and, you know, all the spirits, they respond to that very much. And that's where all the gifts come, you know, a lot of blessings come from that. So that's a lot of what I do in terms of, you know, guiding the dietas and also guiding people back to themselves whenever we're wanting to externalize too much and like, well, you know, I'm not having a good diet because of this. I'm not having a good diet because of that, or blah, blah, blah. There's so much within us that has the power to create our own experience always, and it comes from our mental capacities and our perspectives, perceptions, and always saying, is this a test? And how can I transform this into powerful medicine for myself so that I'm receiving teachings from this moment or from this test or lesson that's coming up? And from there, we actually go through the thresholds and are able to get to some really beautiful places where we get to understand that everything's actually working in our favor. We just have to be open to receive it and to apply the teachings in real time, you know, through the challenges that can come up.
Thank you. Thank you for, explaining the dieta. I've been like listening again, and it's just really intriguing to, how you explain this all and to soak it all in. So thank you. And yes, it's so powerful to be in this sort of stillness and in this nature where you're not distracted by anything and you just need to, sit with yourself only. So yeah, very good about this test. I love it, how you said it. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You were already talking a little bit about the Icaros. So I would love for you to share about the experience of receiving these Icaros and what is the process of how these sacred songs come to you?
They come in different forms and in different ways. And I've realized that every Icaro has its own consciousness and its own work to do in the world. So depending on what its function is, I feel that that can play a role in how it actually comes into my field. So for instance, I have this Icaro that's called Shimi Pampanu, and that's an Icaro that contains the medicine of perfume. And my maestra, Aime, she passed this incredible, very special, very sacred recipe of a perfume that I had always smelled from her for years. I would smell this perfume on her, and I always associated it with so much love and motherly care that I felt from her, safety, just a very pure essence to it. And I realized that she would walk by and I would smell it, in ceremony, and I never knew what it was, and I never asked either. But we entered into a month of dieta together, and she told me, okay, part of an initiation I'm going to take you through is I'm going to pass this recipe to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so special. And the beautiful thing is I didn't ask for it. But as soon as, we sat down, she showed me every plant that goes into it. And then we found another plant, another flower that's called Yakosisa. That was the last diet that I just did actually with her. So that was a full circle with that. And this flower it's this beautiful flower. It's like a swirling white flower that looks like, I don't know, just like an alien, one of the most elegant little beings I've ever seen. It's like a fairy, you know? And we both got one, and we took it back to our casitas, and I placed that flower above my head. You know, it's like a kind of like a board back here, and I was sleeping in my bed, and it was behind me on that board. And I think it took maybe a day for it to actually open and release its aroma. And it was one night that I was laying in bed that I smelled it. It was the moment that it actually started letting out its aroma that I felt that essence coming into the bed, and I was like, what is that? And it was so gorgeous. And we had just spent time with all the ingredients and doing this whole ritual together with the perfume, and then the flower opened up, and then we ended up putting the yakosisa in that perfume too. So it's just, there's so many elements of interaction that came before that Ikaro came, which is us sitting and exchanging information and going out to the Yakosisa plant and finding it randomly and being like, oh my gosh, and we found a bunch of Yakosisa plants, and we left the tobacco, and we picked the flowers, and so much communion, right? Like the relationship was already being built, and our presence was being imbued with these ingredients, with these plants. And so there's already a communion that's happening, and we're already dancing together in certain ways, right? And there's a lot of joy that we're feeling in that process, and sacredness. Like, we're like, wow, this is just so gorgeous, and we're so privileged to be here and to be able to interact with them. And then when this smell aroma released of the yakosisa flower, it sort of instantly brought the melody of the Ikaro with it. And it was just that pure, you know, that clear. And I remember seeing the Ikaro too, you know, as I was smelling the flower. It has its own life form. Like I see it. So there's a synesthesia that's happening for me as well. And with that, when it comes to me in that way, then I feel like I'm a steward, you know, like I'm a caretaker. Okay, you want to exist in the world. You have a mission of your own, right? To do your work here and to heal people, open their hearts, to provide medicine for those that are meant to receive it. And I'm just a caretaker, a steward, you know, to understand what the Ikaro needs. How do you want to be carried? And from there, I think the next day, then I put all the words to it. You know, the melody was there, and then all the words just came in one sitting. And so I put so many, that's where then the weaving of all the languages start to happen. So that Ikaro has Spanish, it has Quechua, it has Ashaninka, and it has Nahuatl. So that's my ancestry from my Mexican ancestry coming through. And yeah, so I call on all of the ingredients that are in the perfume, but then also the yakosisa, and then I kind of open that up into other perfuming plants that are not necessarily in the perfume, but are connected to the same world as the ingredients that are in there. And so then there's a calling of a lot of other knowledge, right? Like I have to go and understand the other perfuming plants, interact with them, do baths with them. You know, they're part of the whole study and the world that we're interacting with. And then that starts to weave itself into the Ikaro. Yeah, and that's how that Ikaro came to life. And I've sang it in so many different ceremonies at many different moments where it just, and I'll hear it too. I'll hear when the Ikaro wants to be sung. So then it's just like it's a living organism, a living consciousness that not only is sort of starting, it's already conscious when we're interacting with the plants before the Ikaro even comes as a melody, but then it comes, it's a living consciousness as it comes as a melody, and then as the words start to come through, and then understanding when it's appropriate to sing that, at certain points. And so there's a constant listening that's happening. And so with that, I have so many different icaros, many, many different ones. And depending on their, like I said, the work that they're meant to do, it's very connected to how they come to me as well. So there's other icaros that are a little bit more like just straight work icaros, maybe not like a flowery perfuming one like Shimi Pampanu, but are a little bit more, they're meant to move a lot and to clear a lot from the body and to do a lot of deep medicinal cleansing. And so I've received some of those in my dreams where I'm like, literally, like there's a curandero, an ancestor that's sitting right in front of me in my dreams and just transmitting that icaro to me. And then I'm like, okay, I'm receiving this. This is a work icaro. I'm understanding its function, how I'm meant to carry it, receive the vibration. And I'm receiving also the teaching from that ancestor and the curandero that's coming to me in my dream, and seeing that he's teaching me how to sing it, So it's just a constant study, So then my job then is I wake up and then I record it and then I say, okay, this is what it wants to be. And so yeah, it's I feel like that's so much of my work also as a curandera, right? It's like how these are tools, these are like coding systems from the plants and the trees that are needing to be decoded, and then I'm doing that, as a sort of like a bridge or an intermediary between the world of the plants and then the physical world. And then within the decoding process is then, the study of how then this will interact with the people, the pasajeros, the patients who are then going to receive it, so that I know what work I'm doing on, for every ceremony and what the patients are needing with what medicine, what am I pulling out of my medicine bag? And so much of that is contained within the icaros.
I wonder also, like you're already talking just now about it, but and how you carry all these songs and transmit them also during ceremony, which is kind of like your clear channel here. And you do this in service to the plant spirits, but also to the participants who are in ceremony with you. How does this process all go during ceremony for you?
I feel like it comes back to the listening part, which is what's deeply cultivated within the dietas and then in the receiving of the icaros. So I feel like it comes all full circle. And why I feel that the practice of listening, the art form of listening, and sort of even like the pedagogy of listening, I feel like there's a whole, it's like sometimes I've kind of gone into these spaces of learning how to learn better, right? It's like listening is a deeply, I think, overlooked skill set that has been lost, within the fast-paced world that we live in. And why I feel that dietas bring us back to some essential aspects of ourselves as humans without all those distractions. And our perception shifts so dramatically when we're able to actually be present in a different way. And so listening, I think, is the cornerstone of being present and then being able to receive in the diets. The diets are a crucible for really honing in and cultivating the skill set of listening. And we have to continue to listen in order to continue to receive icaros, which are these tools that are coming into our medicine bag that we're going to transmit within the ceremonies. And then then that listening comes back into the ceremony space, and we need to understand what's happening within the flow of the ceremony and what is necessary in every moment. Because the Ícaro is a living form, there's Ícaros that are sang, the same way every time, but then there's this other form of Ícaro, which are the arcanas, and those are living forms. So they're sort of improvised and channeled in the moment every single time that they're sang. So they're never sang the same way. But they can still have their own basic melody or structure. It just that structure is there, and then what a plant and medicine is weaved into that Ícaro changes every time depending on what is needed in the moment that it's sang in the ceremony, and how we know in order for us to understand what we're singing or what we're meant to sing in that moment comes back to our listening. So for instance, I have one Ícaro that the melody goes, Ninos espiritoi runai mandai kunai gayari. De los bosques shayare mai runai vueltai sitai medicina. Oraya moiriri. Venga, venga, plantita, iriaririri. Lindos doctores y toiruna de la selva mayaya, mayaya. And I can take that Ícaro, and so usually I sing that Ícaro the same way every time. The first line of it I do, so that's like, it's just like a staple. Nos espiritoi runai mandai kunai gayari. De los bosques shayare mai runai vueltai sitai medicina. But then after that, then I can sing to anything. Any diet, any medicine, any of these doctor spirits that I have a relationship with, they're all at my disposal. So there's an infinite amount of possibilities of what then I'm going to weave into that Ícaro. And in order for me to determine what I'm going to sing to, I need to listen and to be connected to the diets, because they're the ones that are going to tell me, if they want to be weaved into this Ícaro. So it could go into many different directions depending on what's needed. We can go straight into tabaco. Tabaquito, abuelito, taita sairi, soplarengue cuerpecito, soplarengue coronita, yariri. And as I'm singing that, I am listening. What is the next plant that wants to come in? And the plant will tell me. I'm not the one telling the plant. It's a two-way dialogue for sure, because I'm kind of like, okay, what else wants to come in here? But I have to understand what's happening in the ceremony space in order to, really make the correlation happen. So for instance, if there's some really, we're really in the deep part of the ceremony and we need to really clean a lot out, then I'm probably going to call on maybe like Wankawi Sacha, which is a plant that's a purgative. I'm going to call on Mukura, that's also a very strong plant to cleanse the mind. So it's like cleaning and purging out bad thoughts and fears and things like that. And I can also call on the stronger trees that I've dieted with, because those have really powerful medicines, and those will really get in there and start to churn the medicine in a different way. So I can call on ahosquiro or pucalupuna, things like. So I have to have an understanding of what exactly each plant and tree does medicinally. I've already done those diet, so I understand what they do, and then I can, assess what's happening in the ceremony space, be in communication with them, and then that's where the Ikaro forms in real time as a living, conscious Ikaro tapestry of the web and the cosmology that's needed in that moment for the people that are meant to receive in that moment. And I could sing that Ikaro again, another night or another ceremony, and maybe I'm going to sing two flowers instead, or water spirits, and because that's what's needed at that time. So yeah, I hope that that makes some sense. They're very complex technology.
I think you did it very clear. It's really beautiful, and we even got to experience some of your beautiful sounds and singing here. So thank you. And yes, I of course experienced your ceremony as well, and I think it's just really beautiful how, yeah, you're then connected with all the plant spirits, and it's really like in the moment and being present and listening as you, yeah, have explained and shared to us here. So thank you. And I also want to ask you that you lead and hold space really beautifully throughout the ceremony and also your teachings. And I wonder, like, if you could say something about how or in what ways you feel your work inspires others to gather in community and walk their own path of service with sort of greater strength, and to create this sort of community feel as well and be really of sacred service.
Well, one of the most beautiful things that I've been able to witness as a facilitator is that there's so much of people's creative energy that comes online. And as there's a purification within every person, and their soul becomes that much more illuminated and active, there's so much remembrance that comes along with that too. And also some very distinct channels that open up for many people. So their gifts start to come online, and they begin to have very real, palpable inspiration to sing, to play music, to play different instruments, to be in deeper connection with life, with nature, with themselves. And I feel that what happens also is that then they start to feel the calling to be of service as well. So being of service passes the torch, to many others who want to be of service. And that comes with the responsibility of education too, So I have had such a privilege of having so many students from many different places around the world, and have created sort of a global community through the education that I've been able to share with others through my mentorship program, and then also teaching that happens in real time, in the ceremony spaces as well. But I feel within the mentorship, that's where I'm able to really, get very structured and calculated about the technologies and how they're working, what's happening within the energetic spaces of ceremony, but then also really bring people back into that state of introspection to really, we have to understand the technology of ourselves first and foremost, I think, in order for us to actually be carriers of these songs or become open channels. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be through song and music, but being able to hold information, to be connected and to be a channel for information or for energy or wisdom that wants to come through for us, even just for our own lives, much less, and then we can obviously share that with others. But in order for us to be a channel, we have to understand our own personal technology and what are the mechanisms that are happening within, and really ground that, get all of this situated, tune this instrument as clear as we can, And then, all the energy and the channeling and the songs, everything starts to come through because it has a very clear vessel to come into. And what's beautiful, not just in ceremony space, for the mentorship, there's every mentorship cohort is its own community, which is then feeding into the greater community of so many others that continue to come in. And what I find is that, like us that feel these particular callings, there can be a sense of isolation that comes with that. And then when we come into these communities, cohort settings, and start to realize that we're not alone, and that, we actually feel there's a commonality that we can share, and that, the confusion that I've been feeling about my gift is actually very similar to this other person. And so there's a lot of conversation, a lot of camaraderie that's built through that, a lot of support, and been able to see people go off and collaborate and do offerings together and go and build their own, beautiful things of service, that they're able to share with the world through the mentorship program. And I think so much of that is actually feeling that they're not alone. Like it's such an essential part of it. I think, when we're coming online with our gifts, it's so different from our modern world and how our general culture has been shaped, and really there's a lot of fear that can come up with how we're going to really implement and function in the real world, and not seem like we're, just kind of on the outskirts of things that actually make sense. But when we normalize more of these teachings, and we go back to even the elders and realize that these are ancestral ways, and there's so much wisdom that's been recorded for a very, very, very long time, and we have many elders that are here present and able to sort of continue to validate that what we're practicing is an inherent part of our humanity. And when we're praying with the earth and we're doing these ceremonies and these rituals, we're actually calling on some of the most ancient and essential aspects of ourselves. And I think it's important that we don't lose those aspects of ourselves individually, but then also what it does for us in community, which is so needed and so important, especially as we become more isolated in the modern world through the different forms of technology. And so, yeah, there's a mentorship community, and I consider that sort of like a global community where we're circulating around education. I also bring in elders, and they share their teachings with the students as well. And I have a passion for wanting to see their gifts be cultivated, and that what they're experiencing is something that's sacred and real. And once they actually believe in it and create a discipline around it, then it can actually develop and form into a mature sense of medicine, and that they can go off and share that with their communities or their clients, or however it is that they want to be of service to the world. And then, of course, there's the ceremonies, which is the in-person communities where we're praying together, we're cleansing together. And I feel like it's in those spaces where I'm able to pray and also listen to many sort of like the threads that are bringing us together in that moment. Also, there's always something happening globally or within our, the country, or whatever's happening at the time. It's usually a part of why we came together physically in those ceremony spaces in order to share and to also, come into a sense of community, exchange ideas, and also leave feeling inspired and renewed and really strengthened by being present with each other in sacred space and in prayer. And so, yeah, that differs in many different spaces. So, for instance, like in Hawaii, when I do ceremony out there, it's so essential that we're bringing native people of Hawaii into those spaces and having their prayers be a part of it. And that we're praying for those lands and we're praying for those waters, and that those prayers are also getting taken back home by all the people that came to Hawaii to pray together. And so there's so much seeding that happens during every ceremony space, and there's particular things that need to be listened to and kind of weave together in order for the prayers to happen there properly, where we're doing ceremonies, the spirits that are guardians of those lands, that those are being weaved into the space as well. And so the community is like, it just keeps growing and growing with every ceremony, because we want to, again, just weave everything together and be sure that the web of life is being honored, and that we're thinking about all of it. You know, the ancestors of every land, they're part of the community with every ceremony that we're opening up as well. And so when we have this web that's open, you know, there's something palpable that happens with every person that's participating in the ceremony, and they can take that back home, and hopefully, you know, that's also part of the way they're walking in their communities too, and that they're keeping those bridges open and the web of life continuing in the ways that they're living their life as well. So yeah, I feel like community is a really essential part of my offerings, and how I really feel, you know, that this medicine is meant to do something absolutely essential for us individually, but collectively as well. There's no separation between any of them, and honoring every single individual that's coming in, but also knowing that every individual is also influencing the entire, you know, collective humanity, and the greatness and the potency of every person showing up with their prayers, that is fully honored in the whole scope of, you know, if one person heals, the whole collective heals as well. So yeah, that's something that's really important for me to always keep on the forefront of all these community gatherings.
Yes, thank you for sharing. It's really wonderful to hear and also to see your path, that you really have this full commitment to walk this path even further and more deeply. And I want to ask you also, what do you feel the importance of carrying the wisdom and frequency of the earth through music and sound during these times?
I'm thinking about Maestro Quique Pinto right now. He's such a great teacher and a really beautiful mentor as well in my life. And I love the way that he brings historical context, sort of from an archaeological standpoint, but then also from the standpoint of ancient wisdom, and this realm of prayer and ceremony into every single instrument that he holds in his hands and plays, with whether that's a tiny little whistle, or, you know, a pan flute, or the charango, the ícaros, the walinas. You know, there's so many different forms of song, and yeah, I can't. This question is interesting because I'm like, how can it not be important? You know, I feel like song is one of the most essential and ancient ways that we've been able to continue to hold on to memories of our existence, you know, just from an archaeological standpoint. And it's how we've been able to pass our stories forward, the experiences that we're going through, the ways that we're weaving in what it means to be human, you know, in so many complex ways. And when it comes to carrying the essence of the earth, I think it's so needed. I feel like, culture has really shifted a lot and is continuing to shift a lot. I mean, even nowadays, AI is writing songs that are comparable to what we would consider, pop music. And so we're seeing a very fast acceleration of the ways that technology is taking over in certain ways, and a, with that is an even further disconnection from the earth and the ways that we as humans are the ones that are out there having our soil, our hands in the soil, and receiving this information directly into our bodies and our being, and taking in the teachings and the wisdom that comes along with being in these relationships with the earth and all of these beautiful spirits that need to continue to be honored and protected. And to be able to imbue them into songs is a way that those spirits are able to live on through time, And if we don't continue to, uh, have these transmissions be alive, then they will be lost, and we might go into a different path where we are only privileging music and songs that are of, sort of like the fads of culture or the fads of different sects of society that don't privilege the earth. And we're seeing so much of our earth being decimated on a daily basis. And there's a constant fight and struggle for the conservation of many different lands all over the world. And the pinnacle and sort of the center point of how these plights are happening is through song. If you go to Brazil and you listen to the Yawanawa, who are on the front lines protecting the Amazon jungle, a big way that they're able to really transmit that plight and their wisdom is through their scythes, and that goes for so many different tribes and indigenous cultures and those that are really standing for the earth and choosing to protect her and to honor her in the way that's necessary. If we do not continue with these songs, then I feel that we're going to step further and further away from the necessary steps that we need to be taking, which is to become more urgently involved with what this earth needs in order to be preserved and to be protected in the way that is really needed. And so that's why these Icaros are so important for me, and bringing these ceremony spaces together and to open them, and there's so much music that's being shared within these circles. It's the way that we're communing together and honoring our home, and our mother in the ways that she deserves. And yeah, it's something that's it makes me very emotional, honestly, to even think about, a decline in us praising our beautiful Mother Earth. And unfortunately, it just seems like, medicine music is its own sect and genre of music, but it doesn't really interact with the pop world so much. And I think that's also a reflection of sort of like the general values of our general society. And I feel that as artists, for us to continue to share our music and be in our creative inspiration and to be in communion with the land and to imbue ourselves into these songs and bring people together to sing them together and to, their prayer, it's form of prayer. And as much as we keep that alive, we're also keeping the mission alive of protecting and honoring the earth alongside all of that.
Thank you for this powerful message, Daniela. think it's great what you've all said right now. And yeah, that all these songs are also prayers and our connection with Mother Earth and all that is alive. So thank you for addressing the importance and bring that back to Ikaros and song. To close our interview, is there anything else that you would like to share with our summit audience that you think is important for them to know?
I think, yeah, I would like to share that if any of you are feeling an inspiration, even if it's just a tiny little ping or a whisper to activate more of your creative energy, to sing, to play instruments, to dance, to in some creative capacity with your own expression, um, channel or communicate with nature, please do that. You know, please follow that calling and do it for yourself first and foremost. Do it because it's something that's pure, that's coming from your heart, and it's coming from a space of prayer. And just know that every time we're out in nature and we sing to a bird or a plant and we leave tobacco on the earth and we're there really making ourselves known and present to the natural world, it's always listening, and it's so grateful to receive. And there's so many blessings that we receive in return when we go out and we offer words, prayers, songs, dance, tobacco, all those things to Mother Nature. So if you have that inspiration, please follow it.
Thank you for this guidance. Yes, it would be great to follow this and be a bit more playful, of course, as well with yourself and enjoy life and what all has been offered to us. I also want to ask you for our summit audience to know about any of your upcoming offerings. Is there anything that is coming up for you end of this year or next year that you would like to share?
Yes, I am going to be doing some concerts. There's a concert coming up in Tepoztlan in Mexico. It's a little bit south of Mexico City, and it's a part of a festival that's called Restaura, and that's an elder gathering. Maestro Quique Pinto is going to be there as well as a lot of amazing elders and ceremonialists. So I'll be sharing a concert and then also circles of tobacco soplas with ícaros and medicine music there. So it's really beautiful, this festival. It's not just music, it's ceremony and prayer. It's all of it together. It's really amazing. I'm also participating in a summit that's called the World Tribal Alliance, and that's in South Africa in Cape Town, and that's also a gathering of elders from all over the world, and we're coming together to really listen to the elders and support them and to listen to their prophecies and see what can be gleaned from the exchange of these prophecies in order to understand where the state of humanity is and where it's going so that we can be, you know, better leaders in our community as well. And I also have a newsletter, so I'm planning on having ceremony out here in Tulum or in this area in Quintana Roo next year. So I haven't announced anything yet, but it's in the works. If anyone's interested, then yeah, my newsletter is a good way to receive information about upcoming ceremonies.
Thank you. So everybody can follow Daniela and to be updated about her next offerings next year. And I also want to ask you if you could share perhaps something about your gift, which is free music online for our audience, which is really amazing. So would you like to share a little bit about your gift?
Yes, my gift is my music on Spotify. I have invested so much of my energy, my time, my love, and um, have have also been in many different places around the world in many different moments of communion with nature, with many different lands, and have always done that with a lot of respect and honor. And yeah, I've really poured a lot into being able to share music. And there's a lot of flute music on there as well. A lot of the flute music that I have there is, like I said, me going out into different lands depending on my travels and really communing with different mountains or a waterfall or, a forest, a jungle, and creating a space where, something is being channeled in the moment. So a lot of that music is on Spotify, as well as songs that I've received in my diets. And so there's an album of that music, and that's all singing. And there's Icaros on there too. So all of everything that I've been speaking of throughout this interview, I think it's imprinted into the music, which is available on Spotify. And I also have music videos, so those are on YouTube as well.
Thank you. Yes, I highly recommend all of the beauty that Daniela Riojas is creating. So for all of those or everyone who's listening here right now, please make sure to scroll down below this interview where you can find the link to the Spotify and YouTube links, as well as other links for how to follow and learn more about the work of Daniela. So, Daniela, thank you so much from myself and also on behalf of Shaman's Directory for joining us for this summit. It's been really, truly inspiring to listen to you and for sharing all of your wisdom and experiences with us and even all of the beautiful frequencies of the Ikaro. So thank you deeply for sharing yourself with us here.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I really am grateful for the opportunity to share with your community and hoping that it all leads to the greater community all weaving together. That's the plan here, huh?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. And to everyone who's viewing and participating, we thank you for taking time of your day to soak in all of the wonderful wisdom and beauty and all of the wonderful things that Daniela has shared with us. And we look forward to have you joining us at our next interviews around the cosmic fire.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Can't wait.